let's just keep it moving, at least for the recording, because the recording is getting the audio. And let's talk about this get rich slow plan. And um, you mentioned that there is a lot of gurus out there who are saying the opposite and who are kind of preaching this other. So I'd love for you to talk about, if you mentioned your story a little bit, but you can share as little, as much as that's relevant, but what this plan is and maybe why it's so valuable for people and moving into the 2020 and kind of getting into this next decade, especially those who want to grow with their finances.
Right. So, I'm on the other side of all this now. I've been financially free for some time, but at 25 years old, I was a part-time grocery clerk painting addresses on people's curbs to buy diapers for my kids. And 15 years later, I was retired and financially free. And I think what I did that was different is, candidly, all the things we teach here at One Life Fully Lived. I found my fulfillment triangle and operated inside of that for that 15-year period from 25 to 40. Woke up every day and cranked the song Welcome to the Jungle at 7 a.m. driving to the office, just rocking and rolling. And so I was doing what I loved to do every day, and with an amazing family that was growing alongside of me. And I never wanted the bling or the fancy stuff. Look at my jewelry. It's a One Life wristband here. Never drove. I drove the same car 10 years in a row for 3 decades, and took all that extra money and invested it in appreciating assets and cash flowing assets, because I don't know why. I knew I didn't want to work forever, but I knew I didn't want to, quote, labor forever. So it's really important to me to get somewhere financially. And I'm sure there's a lot of you who can relate to that, where, you're working hard, you're making money, maybe you like what you do, but you can tell it's just getting tiring and you don't want to do it forever. So what worked really well for me was, working hard, concentrating on those core 4 items, and just making sure I showed up every day and gave a crap about the people that I went to business with, and that was selling houses, and then took all that extra money and just bought my own real estate and became my own best customer, and then sold 17 properties with 52 tenants, like right into the top of the California craze. And that didn't happen by accident. There were a lot of things by being in the trenches that I learned and now know, and can help you, take your business and life to another level.
So Tim, let's talk about kind of this operating plan, right? And you mentioned kind of running your, one thing that is different about One Life is a lot of people are entrepreneurial. And so there's this kind of, the business of your life. So kind of take us through these stages here. Step 1, it says, dream it all started with the dream. And you kind of talked a little bit about that, and we'll kind of get into the plan, but I'd love for you to kind of take us through these, this plan. And specifically, one thing that I think you didn't share was your record with investments. I know that that's something that I was really impressed with as well. So as we go through this, kind of walk through these steps here of this Get Rich Slow plan, and we can kind of go through where you see is most important to spend time.
Yeah. So the first thing is, and I said this in the core 4, when I talked about the vision plan, you have to have a compelling dream. Where are you going with all of this? And if you look down below, I wrote my dream out in 1997, and it was I would be living up in the mountains, getting the goods in the woods, financially free. My family's all close, and I'm just spending my time doing something I love to do. And that turned out to be Go Abundance and One Life Fully Lived. So it's kind of like I wrote out this compelling dream while I was living where I didn't want to live, doing something I was already getting sick of, and in a place where you may find yourself today. So maybe you might want to get off this call tonight and write out your dream. Where would you be? Let's say you're 32 years old. Where will you be at 40? Let's say you're 37 years old. Where will you be at 45? Or maybe it's, just pick a time frame down the road. Maybe it's when your kids graduate. Is that marathon dream? Where am I going with all of this? What's the next step in all of this? So the first piece is the dream. The second piece is the plan. And I wrote, you can see it's a marathon, not a sprint. All your actions are based on the long-term plan. So let's say you're 37 now and you write it out for when you're 45. That's 8 years from now. It'd be 2026. And what will my life be like then? And then like in December, which is coming up right now, or start on it now, you'll write out a plan for 2020. And then in January, it's what am I doing in January? In the first week of January, what am I doing this week? And first day, what am I doing today that gets me where I want this week, that makes my month work, that makes this year work, that all feeds into that long-term vision plan, okay? So that was the first step was the dream. The second step was the plan. The third step was offense. How can I earn more? And these are some of the things I focused on was like dollar production activity, delegating things to others to free me up to live where I do best. And so the first step's the dream. The second step's the plan. The third step is offense. How can I earn more? The fourth step, what do you think it is? Of course, it's defense. This is the piece most people miss. And that's, once again, living within your means. So while your income goes up, maybe you're making 50 and then 70 and then 90 and then 110, hopefully your expenses go from 30 to 35 to 40 to 50. So you're making 110 and you got 60 left a year to invest. And you don't go buy the new car. You don't go buy the boat. You take that 60 grand and you put it to work for you. And that's the how you get somewhere with all of this. So step 4 is defense. Step 5 is becoming your own best customer. And I did this early on when I started selling real estate and I started making more money. And I was so aggressive in all of this that I'd go put houses and duplexes in escrow I didn't even have the money for. It was just like, all right, write a 4-month escrow, write a 6-month escrow, and just go paddle hard and make the extra money to make it happen. So that was the wealth building piece for me, came really early on. And I'm really glad it happened because I looked up, I was around 40 years old, and I was burned out. I was sick of selling real estate. I was sick of just all the paperwork and the changing laws. And so there was just a lot of stuff that I was tired of doing. So, if you're not there yet, there's going to be a time when you're kind of sick and tired of what your day job is. And maybe some of you are there already and looking for what's next. So number 5 is becoming your best customer. And then step 6 is taking all of that to another level. And that is exchanging to bigger properties and finding properties that are nice cash flowing properties that don't take much of your time and energy, that somebody else can do all the management stuff. So those are the 6 steps to financial freedom. Number 1, have a dream. Number 2, have a plan. Number 3, earn more. Number 4, play solid defense. Number 5, learn how to invest wisely. And then number 6, compound that and start buying bigger properties. If you don't know any of this, a good tool to do is buy and play Robert Kiyosaki's game Cash Flow. And it's all of these 6 steps in a board game. So might want to get your little mastermind group playing that.
Tim, I think that these make it really easy for people to kind of see where they're at and then, assess and understand what steps are next. Can you talk a little bit about the glue, or maybe, the thing that what I think is really accelerates people from stage to stage, which is both leveling up, upgrading your knowledge and upgrading, your information and training yourself and skill development and all those types of things. And then also one thing that I think you've kind of naturally done really well, which I think is built into the ethos of One Life, is the importance of your network and the people that are around you, and whether it's your mentors or you mentioned your posse or your crew. So can you talk about how, and maybe they're linked, but how, upgrading yourself and also upgrading your network is so important to move from stage to stage?
Sure. So the best example I can give is when I first started selling real estate, I was the #1 agent in Manteca. I'm 26, 27 years old, and I'm just thinking I'm some hot shot. And I go down to a Mike Ferry seminar down in Southern California, and I tell somebody, I'm the #1 agent in Manteca. Tell me about you. Well, I sold 150 homes last year on the left of me. Well, I made 400,000 last year on the right of me. And I was wise enough to go, holy moly, I'm out of my league here. It is time for me to sit down, shut up, ask questions, and learn. And sometimes, you think you're the smartest person around you. And when that's the case, maybe it's time to upgrade, and that's what I did. I was wise enough to get out of my little town where everybody had me on this pedestal to another world where there was this whole different paradigm, this whole different level of people. So that was the first time that happened to me. And then it was like when I wanted to learn more about investing, I went to a thing called Money Matters. This was 2004, and I'm in the elevator about to go for a run, and I meet this clown named Pat Hyben. And Hyben introduces me to this other guy named David Osborne. And they're just in a whole different world than me. And we became a 3-man mastermind that was the 3 amigos for about 5 years, and we built a business called GoBundance together. And this was just 2 examples of stepping outside my comfort zone and choosing to meet people or put myself in a place to meet people who can take me to a whole new level. And I think that that's what the people with a growth or an abundant mindset do, is they pay the freight for the next level of teaching that they want. And then people with a scarcity mindset are kind of closed in and think maybe I should do this, but they don't pull the trigger. And that's what the winners do, is they pull the trigger. They you take a good look at what am I doing. You don't just go for anything and everything, because as I said before, there's some shysters out there. There's some get rich quick folks, and that's just not the way to go. But there is always the next piece of your learning. And I'm a guy that barely graduated high school. I never went to college, but I feel like, and I'd love to know the actual number. I know it's somewhere. It could be 1 million. I know it's somewhere. I'd guess 300,000 to 700,000 on my continuing education. I've never done the math, but if you name Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn, Brian Tracy, any Dale Carnegie's full program, Toastmasters, if there's any kind of self-help that could help you get to the next level, I've been through that program, and it was 90% of the time it was a great investment, even if I only got 1, 2, or 3 things. Sometimes I got what I don't want to do. So
this is great.